was experiencing would not end her life. It would only kill her. What an interesting idea. Wouldn't end her life. It would only kill her. But there's this whole notion of, can I make it through one more summer? Which is the gift that will begin to have some powerful resonance for her as she starts to think about the very notion of summer, right? What is it that this woman most was compelled to believe in? The genius of humans. The ability to believe that we have ways to figure out stuff. In other words, when she says genius, let's put this in our notes, she's not talking about knowledge, is she? She's talking about wisdom. That understanding of how you live with the fact that you haven't met any 200-year-old people. Right? The fact that you're going to have to leave the park. The last time, I'm on page 460, the last time I saw her, she was sitting, surrounded by her paintings with her manuscript laid out for me to read, because she said she wanted to know what a young person would think of her thinking. One must always keep up with what young people thought about things, because after all, they are change. Let's go ahead and make an observation at 3A already. This is an interesting, different take on the notion of the old and the young, isn't it, from Celebration of Grandfather? This is a suggestion that the old want to know what the young think because you, the young, are the change of the future, right? You are the change. It is hard for you to imagine yourself at 80. By the way, they got software now, do you know this? Where you can take a photograph of yourself and then they'll age you to show you what you're going to look like at 70 or at 80, right? You can play that game. And of course, it's kind of horrifying to look at that. But you know that as you get older, you will want to pay attention to, in the aging process, the young. Because the young are kind of like the future, right? Those kids who have not yet been born will outlive you, the theory is, right? As you get older, those young, and she wants to be around that. Youth versus old age. Notice as well, every now and then her face will soften with love. Notice the repetition of the word more, more, more. Of course, the point is here, more life. And if you think about your years, we're always thinking about more. Take a look at the genius of this construction. Through her eyes, I finally gained the sense. I'm reading on page 460 again. Close reading. Read it with me. Through her eyes, I finally gained the sense of what it might mean. More than the coming autumn, with its pretentious melancholy, more than an austere and silent winter which must shut dying people in for precious months, more even than the frivolous spring too full of too many false promises, notice the repetition of the word too, would be the gift of another summer with its stark and intimate assertion of neither birth, spring, nor death, winter, but life at the apex, the center. In other words, if you put spring on one side and winter on the other, the apex is the summer in terms of a life, with the gentlest nights and above all, the longest days. Why would someone dying of cancer want a long day? Self-evident, right? Beautifully self-evident. So let's point out now at 2A, what are the major messages of this text? Well, at the epidermal level, it's I started out not liking summer and I ended up liking summer. But once you really work below the surface, you understand this is a text about several things. Let's list them. One of the major themes here is obviously this notion of youth and old age and the power of the symbiosis between the two, right? Between youth and old age. Of course, there's as well this notion of in our lives, we have to respect what the older have given to us and gone through. Even though we don't understand it, we jump rope on the sidewalk and we make up little ditties. We have no idea, for example, that an emancipated slave, for example, or a runaway slave is a part of our own biography. The young often don't appreciate the struggles, the sacrifices, and the gifts of the old. And then, of course, finally, the idea of health and how amazing it is to have health. And you don't really, ask any ball player that's ever had a season-ending injury, and he or she will immediately talk about, man, you do not appreciate what you have until you do not have it. The same is true of health, and of course the same is true of summer as well. The suggestion might be to enjoy your summer of your life, because you don't get to have summer forever, do you? Of course, at 2B, we've already mentioned it, all kinds of powerful things going on here. The tone, notice it starts out kind of like, I didn't really like summer when I was a kid, but by the end, the tone is more sophisticated, isn't it? It's more mature, It's more wise. We've moved from knowledge to wisdom, to understanding by the end of the essay brilliantly. Of course, the repetition stuff going on here and the parallelism we've already pointed out, it's brilliantly constructed, especially with the word more, which is, of course, what anyone dying of cancer wants. One more year. We're told that she did live to have one more summer, right? At level 3A, what is the text for you that kind of seems to prove this story, this essay very true? This idea that those who are dying die with some kind of sense of wanting more. What's your most powerful movie about someone dying before their time? And the movie kind of displays and shows you the compelling stages of the death process and the ways in which art somehow is a way to try and capture time and to try and live beyond that experience of the dying. Of course, the process, we will mention it many, many times in the text we study in your high school curriculum, that, you know, coming to terms with the fact that we don't get to live forever, that's a central truth and a central teaching in so much of the texts of literature that we will study. And then finally, at 3B, what is your favorite season? Jot that down. What is your favorite season and why? And when did you decide to have some kind of favorite season for yourself? Of course, for many students, their favorite season is simply summer. Why? Because they're not in school anymore. But notice how that's a different understanding for people who are not in school. For example, your parents probably think about summer in much different ways than do you. You think of summer as, yay, I don't have to go to school. Your parents, of course, see summer as, oh, great, I got 100 days where I have to have them every day at home, right? Do you think you'll have a different view of the seasons as you age? This text suggests so. This text suggests that as you get older, you begin to kind of have appreciation for things you normally wouldn't have appreciation for. Right? And of course, finally, the question is, who in your life taught you the value of life through the way that they died? Do you have anybody in your life that way, who you watched them? If you've been blessed to have someone in your life who you watched grow old and die, that is a blessing. That is a gift. It's made explicit and implicit in our text. What did they teach you? What mostly did they teach you? And then, of course, finally, one last time, let's make the comparison between this text and Celebration of Grandfathers. Why would this textbook company, why would they pair these two titles together for you, a 3A observation? Why do they go together, and in what ways do they go together? I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you maybe think about summer a little bit differently as well. Thank you.